Hi guys, this is Miss Paraso
and Miss Achilles.
So we're going to make some videos for you. Sometimes we'll be making videos of topics that we're reviewing, such as today, and other times we'll be making topics on brand new information. So for today, what we're going to do is kind of walk you through the process, and you should also be taking notes on this. So remember, whenever you're watching a video, this is notes, so you should always add it to your table of contents. So the topic today is lines and slope. So what I want you to do is pause the video, make sure you have your notebook out, add it to your table of contents, and then make a new page. So pause the video now. Okay, so graphing. So Unit 2, it all has to do with graphing. So first of all, if you had an equation, so you can go ahead and write this equation in your notebook, y equals 3/2 x minus 1. Okay, so that's our equation here, and we're going to use the slope and y-intercept to graph. So you're probably accustomed to, maybe in 6th grade, the beginning of 7th grade, you made a function table, right? So you had this x value that you plugged in, and so for example, your teacher told you pick 5 points, some negative, some positive. So -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. So you plug them into the equation, and then you get out the y value. So for example, if you were to plug in -2, it'd be 3/2 times -2 minus 1, and you would get -4. Okay, but then you moved past function tables, and you started graphing just based on the slope and based on the y-intercept. So go ahead and add that to your notebook so you know this is the slope-intercept form of an equation. And you can see Miss Achilles wrote this up here in red for the slope and in blue for the y-intercept. Okay, so when we're graphing, you know that the slope always has rise over run. So the rise is the top number. In this case, we have 3 is the rise. So the rise is going to be the change in y. And then 2 is our run. And that's going to be our change in x. Okay, so we know that we can start here at the y-intercept. So if it's -1, you can see right here in blue, Miss Achilles put a point at -1. And so we're going to rise up 3, so we go up 1, 2, 3, and run 2. We go over 1, 2. And there's another point. We can also go in the other direction, so we can go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and over 1, 2. Then all we have to do is connect these points. Okay, so we can just graph it using the slope and the y-intercept. All right, so here's one for you to try. So I want you to go ahead and pause the video and write down this equation, y equals -1/3 x plus 4, and pause the video and try graphing that. And I don't want you to make a function table. I want you to graph it by plotting the y-intercept and then using the slope. All right, welcome back. I hope you just paused the video. Okay, so I'm going to use a blue marker here to plot the y-intercept, so that's going to be at a +4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I plot that right here. Now, my slope now is down 1 because it's negative. Okay, so I'm going to go down 1 and then a +3. So that's 1, 2, 3. So my point is going to be right here. Okay, now to go in the other direction, I can go up 1 and over 1, 2, 3. And plot my point right there. So now I can just connect the lines here as straight as I can. And this would be the line, -1/3 x plus 4. And hopefully that's what your equation looked like. Yes, Miss Achilles.
Miss Paraso, I have a question.
Yes.
Do you have to put the arrows on the end of your line?
Well, if I didn't put arrows on the end, then what would it be?
A line segment?
Yes, and are we graphing line segments?
No.
We're graphing lines. So you do always need the arrows, and since you guys love to ask this question, will you take points off on my test if I leave off the arrows? And Miss Achilles, what is the answer?
Yes.
All right, so make sure you have those arrows on there. All right, so we're moving over to this side of the room. Another thing that we have to review is the slope formula. So hopefully you remember the slope formula. So go ahead and you can pause and write down the slope formula. Okay, so it's y2 minus y1 which again is just a change in y. So remember that that delta symbol means change over the change in x. So we said over there that it was rise over run, so it's the same thing, but we're calculating it. And the way you read this, the little 2 is x sub 2. That's just a subscript that means that it's the second x. All right, so here Miss Achilles labeled this for you, so it's x1, y1, and it's x2, y2. So go ahead and pause the video and try to find the slope using the slope formula. Okay, I hope you already found it and you're back from pausing. So here we go. I'm going to do 8 minus negative 5, because that's y2 minus y1 over 2 minus negative 1. So remember, I need to add the opposite, so I'm going to change this to a plus sign, and it's going to be 13, and then I add the opposite over 3. So now, I could simplify that if possible, but this cannot be simplified, so my slope is just 13 over 3, so it would be up 13 over 3. Yes, Miss Achilles.
I have a question. Should I change that to a mixed number?
You should not change it to a mixed number, because in an equation, whenever we have y equals mx plus b, if we put a mixed number in there, for example, this would be 4 1/3, it would look weird to put 4 1/3 x, because you wouldn't know if it was like the 1/3 x or 4x, so we always leave it as an improper fraction. That was a great question.
Thank you, Ms. Pariseau.
All right, moving on. Lastly, there's 4 types of slopes. I think you're probably familiar with positive and negative slopes. So positive is when you're going in a positive direction. We're always reading from left to right, just like we do in the English language. So think about your grades in class. If your graph of your grades looked like this, and you started off the semester low, and your grades went up, your parents would be pretty happy because it was positive. You might be in trouble in the beginning, but if you're making positive changes, they would be happy. On the other hand, if you started with A's and B's and your graph looked like that, that would be very negative, and your parents would be really upset if your graph looked like that. So that's a negative slope. So 0 and undefined might be new concepts to you. So if they are, just get them down in your notes. So a 0 slope is when it's going to be flat. So that means 0 change in your grades. That means that nothing's changed and it's just flat, 0 slope. Where undefined looks like that, and it's just straight up and down, and that wouldn't even be possible because you couldn't even have a graph of your grades that looks like that, and that's why we call it undefined. Okay, so hopefully this was a good review of lines and slopes, and we will see you next time on Miss Achilles and Miss Pariseau's video series. See you later.
Bye.